Hello, and welcome to episode 8 of the Gamerdisco Podcast. We've got a really cracking episode up for you tonight. I'm joined, as usual, by my co-host extraordinaire, Harry.
Hello,
Hey,
all.
Harry, how's it going?
Very well, how are you, sir?
Good, very good. Bit cold.
Yes.
It's absolutely freezing.
That happened fast, didn't it? It went from being quite nice weather to being really, really cold.
It really, really did. Very, very cold. But today we're talking horror games, because obviously it's kind of Halloween-y time. And we've also got a cracking interview with Rohan, who is a producer on the show Go 8-Bit. Hopefully some of you guys saw that show. Fantastic show. It's all available on UK Play TV, I believe. If you find it, if you do want to.
Fascinating guy, seriously. Him and Swanee was there as well with the chat, and you're in for a treat there. It's amazing.
Yeah. All the backstory, a lot of great backstory that probably hasn't been talked about before. So really, really interesting. Anyway, we are on to horror games. So, Harry, horror games. Favourites?
I was having to think about this.
I
don't like horror that much because it scares me a bit.
Yeah.
But
same.
I tried to think of a few examples for this. Alien Isolation, that was quite good, quite intense.
Ooh,
playing an alien game.
That's a VR. In VR?
That wasn't VR, actually. That was I have other VR games to suggest. Because that's what I was going to say, is that because of VR, horror's come a long way, and it's made it a lot more intense. So there are some great VR horror games out there. The Brookhaven Experiment was fantastic.
Okay.
Also, there was PT, which was Playable Teaser, which was basically like an extended demo made for the next Silent Hills game, which people weren't sure what it was when it first came out, and played through it. It was terrifying, like so scary.
Wow.
But you can't get it anymore because it's been wiped off every store anywhere, or off the Sony store, but basically, which is a real shame. But really good fun.
Yeah. My memories horror games are, I suppose the first one is Doom. I don't know if you ever played Doom.
I did play Doom, yes.
And I remember getting that, and that was on like back in the day of floppy disks. My friend had it on like 10 floppy disks, something ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I remember borrowing his floppy disks and then just loading it onto my computer.
Amazing.
Great. And then playing it as recommended, like switching all the lights out, playing it at midnight with just the screen and the horror effects and all the lights out. And I was just like, this is just terrifying.
Yeah.
It was, wow. I was like, never really been scared by a game before until I played that. That was tough, but fantastic game. I mean,
and quite scary for being so basic and so simple. They did very well to...
Yeah, exactly. I mean, of course, it's so simple. It was so early days. It was led on to like Wolfenstein. I don't know if Wolfenstein 3D.
I love that game rather to bits. Yes,
such a good game.
I mean,
yeah, really good.
Nazis that experiment with stuff. That's pretty terrifying. Different kind of horror game, but
That's actually one of my favourite of that genre in that from 20 years, from a long time ago.
Yeah, that was fantastic.
One of my early favourite games. And then going on, so the Resident Evil, I didn't really, obviously that was massive, but I didn't really get into that. I think a friend had a copy, I played a bit, but I know obviously that's huge.
I mean,
huge franchise.
It's an acquired taste, but what they've done well there is they've reinvented the genre quite well. Like it starts off being, quite puzzles and intuitive. Then with the fourth game, it was more of a third-person kind of shooter type thing, and now in the sixth and seventh and eighth one, it keeps changing and reinventing itself, which is, I think that's quite good. That's quite interesting.
Yeah, that's cool. And then the latest, I suppose, the latest horror game I played, I'm not like you, I'm not really into horror games, but The Last of Us.
Oh yeah, of course.
Brilliant. Absolutely phenomenal. One of my favourite games probably I've played in the last few years. Absolutely phenomenal game. I'm not interested. I'm not really into zombies or zombie films. What? Really?
The Last of Us. Everyone said play The Last of Us. It's great. It's great. And to me, it's too slow. It's it's more stealth and that kind of thing. And I get that people love that, but I didn't. But yeah, I don't know.
Oh, fair enough. You didn't. Yeah, I mean, I get what you mean. It is kind of it's slow pace. And
it is.
You're absorbing the world around you. But I loved that.
Fair play.
Absolutely. Yeah, I thought it was kind of magical is the wrong word because it's kind of a post-zombie world, so it's difficult. I wouldn't say magical, but it's such a evocative. It was so immersive.
Yes, and they're now making a TV show. Which
are they?
They are, yes.
Oh, no way.
Which leads us on quite well to our topic this month, which is gaming TV. I mean, not narrative TV shows, but we're obviously talking about,
gaming TV shows.
Indeed.
Before we go on to that, quickly, Harry, have you got some news for us?
I do have some news. Not much this month, but a few things to talk about. Okay. So here we are, speed round. First of all, the Uncharted movie trailer has finally been released, and oh my, I'm trying not to judge this until the film's out, but it looks like everything we feared it would be. Like an amalgamation of all the games and also a prequel. Drake, he looks about Tom Holland. I mean, he's in his 20s, 30s. He looks so young. It just doesn't seem right to me. And Mark Wahlberg is playing Sully without a mustache. I am very apprehensive of it. I really am. The action looks great. I mean, that was one thing the series always got right and did very well. But this film, it just looks like everything we feared. They're starting the story out early on to try and make as many sequels as they can.
Right.
And I'm very apprehensive. I'm happy to be impressed, but I'm not confident, to be honest.
Who's writing? Are any of the writers from the game writing the film?
I couldn't tell you. I would assume not.
Yeah. Yes.
Anyway,
I can't. Do you know what? I can't. Can you think? I can't think of any computer games that have successfully been turned into films.
I mean, obviously, our Gamerdisco colleague Rory runs the Game on Film podcast, which covers this topic extensively. We'll link that in the show notes. I mean, the last Lara Croft film was quite good with Alicia Vikander. Yeah. I enjoyed that. Okay. Did you see that?
Okay. I don't. I've seen a couple of Tomb Raiders, but I don't think I've seen the last one.
I mean, Angelina Jolie, she was great, in those.
Yeah, she was good. It was an entertaining film, but
yeah.
I don't. I think Tomb Raider wasn't too bothered about because I wasn't massively into. I know everyone loved Tomb Raider. I wasn't massively into the game. So, it's a good game, but I wasn't huge into it, so I couldn't be too disappointed. It's when they did Hitman, and then they did a Hitman game. I loved the Hitman series, and the game was the film was just so disappointing.
Haven't they done 3 different versions of that now? Like different actors, different.
Yeah, I haven't seen them all, but just.
Oh well. Moving on.
Carry on.
Okay, so yes, Grand Theft Auto Remastered Trilogy is coming out quite soon, in December, in fact. And it looks quite good. GTA 3, Vice City, and San Andreas. Obviously, Vice City was the best GTA game and never will be beaten.
Absolutely.
But it looks okay. I mean, it's got remastered visuals. The characters look a bit off, but I'm optimistic. Okay. Also, there's a VR port of San Andreas being done for the Oculus Quest.
Ooh,
so that could be fun.
That could be interesting. That could be fun.
Yeah.
What the remastered version? This is for PS5, is it?
PS5, Xbox, all the latest gen consoles. I think PC as well. I could be wrong, but
okay.
Ho hum.
I'm not sure if I get it, but I do love GTA. Oh, we'll see what happens.
Again, Vice City. I love the game to bits.
Yeah.
Best GTA. Fight me.
Anything else?
Yes. Okay. So 2 more things. Warner Brothers are doing a melee fighting game. I think called Metaverses. It looks a bit like Space Jam 2 has leaked because it's like all their characters from Warner Brothers in a fighting game. It's like there's Shaggy and Batman and Jake from Adventure Time, Rick and Morty, Gandalf, Steven Universe.
No way.
Yeah.
That actually sounds could be quite entertaining.
I mean, yeah,
have we got
I guess. I mean, if you like those characters, then great. But I don't know. Again, like, if you want to play Smash Bros, play Smash Bros. Like, why would those characters be fighting? Anyway, madness. Anyway, so one last thing this month that I saw today, Say again.
I was going to say, like Shaggy and Scooby-Doo.
Yes, that's the one.
Shaggy and Scooby-Doo.
I think
so. Shaggy
that's almost.
Scooby-Doo.
I mean, I think Shaggy, but I think that's almost entirely because he became a meme last year. Do you remember that?
Right. Okay.
Do you remember that?
No.
Okay, so yeah, basically,
What
I,
happened? What was that?
I'll link some memes in the show notes, but for some reason, Shaggy became a meme about being the
Okay.
most powerful being ever that could fight anyone and take on anything, and it was very silly and funny. But yeah. So one last item that caught my eye today when I was researching this. A prolific Nintendo pirater has pleaded guilty to pirating stuff. He's facing a massive fine of $5 million or so and 10 years in jail. But the reason why this
Jeez.
caught my eye, because his name is
Yeah.
Gary Bowser.
No
What
way.
are the
He's changed it.
chances? Apparently not.
No, come on, that's not. He's changed that. He's changed it to Gary Bowser.
I mean,
surely.
I know I know Bowser's a bad guy because he keeps kidnapping Peach, but anyway.
Actually called Bowser. That is hilarious.
It's hard to take that story seriously when it's
Yeah.
Bowser that's pirated all these games. Yes. Anyway,
That's brilliant.
yes, that's all I had for this month. So yeah,
Okay.
on with the show.
Cool. So we will be talking gaming shows, or we're going to be talking gaming shows. My earliest memory of a computer game show is Games Master. I think that was on from like 91, so I was very young.
Before my time, because I was one at the time.
A bit before your time, but I remember coming back from school, and then in the evening, Games Master being. It was at the time. It's hard to describe, Harry, obviously, because you weren't.
No,
you weren't there. But it was the cool. It was one of the coolest shows on for that age group, sort of like 10 to 20, I suppose, 10 to teenagers.
Okay.
It was the coolest show, one of the coolest shows on TV. Quite edgy. It was on Channel 4.
Okay.
Nothing really like it that approached it. Hosted by Dominic Diamond, Scottish comedian who's now still hosting. He's now I think he does a podcast. He's a radio host in Canada. He's moved to Canada, but it was just cracking, just really entertaining show.
Oh, nice.
And then, weirdly, in a bizarre twist, it had what's the actor who's in Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels came in for series 3. I can't remember his name.
Again, this is before my time, so I can tell you.
Really good actor. I love Lock, Stock. It's one of my favourite films, and the name escapes him. But he comes in. He fills in for series 3.
Dexter Fletcher,
and then that's it. Dexter Fletcher.
Thank you, Google.
Then he got a lot of. I think there was a lot. He got a lot of stick. A lot of people are unhappy that he'd come in. And I watched some episodes recently, just out of interest. I thought it was good. I liked it, but that's benefit maybe of watching it 20 years later, or whatever it was, 25 years later probably. And great, really good show. I can't really think of any other gaming shows that really were in the same way. There was one like called Total, like Rome or Total War or something.
Okay.
Which was called Battle of Carthage. It was a strategy game that was on, I think, early 2000s, hosted by Greg Wallace.
Oh yeah, he's good.
It was hosted by someone else. He picked it up later, and essentially sold 2 teams, and they play like Total War or strategy game like Roman Empire or whatever, and then they would fight each other. But it was BBC. It wasn't nearly as good as Games Master. I mean, that is just the definitive show, especially with Patrick Moore.
Fair enough.
So yeah. Anyway, but what about you, Harry?
I mean, as far as like game shows, video game based, not so much. One thing obviously I watched quite a lot when I was younger was like kid shows like Sonic the Hedgehog or the Super Mario Brothers Super Show.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I supported in the last few years was a Kickstarter project called Video Game High School. That was done by a studio called Rocket Jump, and it was a Kickstarter.
You supported that?
I did. And it got
I watched
it got really big. It was good fun,
It was great. That was really good.
Projects like that are helping to add viability to video game projects and helping them break into the mainstream, which is nice.
Oh, that's amazing! Yeah, I didn't know that. Yeah, no, I remember that. I remember watching it. That was entertaining.
It was a bit of fun,
Yeah, it was a bit of fun. And the last but not least, obviously, we should mention the amazing Go 8-Bit.
Yes.
as we have an interview with the producer who developed the whole concept. His basically his idea from scratch.
Indeed.
Developed it and helped produce the first series. Brilliant. So Go 8-Bit, obviously entertainment show with a kind of quiz style format, quick format, and they play different challenges. Really, really good. Hosted by Dara O'Brien. Very funny, very, very funny, and they've got a couple of brilliant comics.
That they did.
No, they did, including Steve McNeil. And yeah, that's it. So I suppose that's it, Harry. Anything to add before we head on with the interview?
No, I mean, on with the interview. That was you guys are in for a treat here. You really are. That was a fantastic interview we have here. But yeah,
brilliant. Okay, roll on. Enjoy, guys.
Yeah, baby.
Okay. Well, hey, welcome. Welcome to the show, Rohan.
Hello.
Thank you for coming on our podcast.
It's so nice to be here.
Excellent.
Nice to be anywhere these days.
I'm very much on the gamer half than the disco half. Like my moves are sharp. Don't get me wrong, but they sharp in a dangerous way. Like people just get hurt. So.
Elbows are sharp.
Yeah.
What about like DDR, Dance Revolution?
Yes, that's the quickest avenue to a stroke for me. So 46 and overweight. So yeah. All about the dance revolution. What am I talking about? I'm so sorry.
It's about the CPR revolution. I'll tell you what, it's the dance and the CPR revolution, I think, is perhaps.
Oh shit! Are we allowed to swear? Because I've just sworn twice.
Why?
Yes.
Oh, thank fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how did you? So you just a bit of background on you. You've got quite an extensive history as a producer, and then obviously you came across and you came into Go 8-Bit. Can you tell me how that happened?
Yes, very happily, but it's a long story. So put your seatbelts on, listeners. All right. So I don't remember any of the years of anything. I think we were in production around 2016. Is that right? I think so,
that's correct. Okay. Yeah.
All right. So about 6 years before that, around 2009, 2010, me and my mate Matt Holt directed a Edinburgh show with Sam Pamphilon and Steve McNeil. Yeah, who were a very funny double. They were the hosts of Go 8-Bit, and it was a brilliant body swap, funny sketch show thing, which did well, and we were really proud of it. And we all got on like a house on fire. I'd known Steve for a few years before that. I'd worked with him before. We'd done the Brendan Burns show that had won the Edinburgh Comedy Award. Yeah, we won the Edinburgh Comedy Award. So that's how I met Steve years prior to that, and I met Sam through that. And then the following year, Steve started talking about doing a live show in which he's going to get a load of comedians drunk and get them to play video games. And apparently, I was one of like 2 or 3 people. I think Gareth, you were another one who went, "Yeah, brilliant, that's a great idea." But absolutely everyone else went, "Can you stop? Just put the crack pipe down, like just put it down." But sure enough, I think it was the very next year in Edinburgh, I went along to see one of they were doing them on Friday and Saturday nights, I think, and only a couple of them, they were unlisted. But I was sat in the audience and it was really raucous. They were doing things like giving each other dead arms if they lost and stuff. It was really stupid. But what I noticed sat in the audience was A, I was enjoying myself. B, the audience was really enjoying it. And see, this is the critical bit. And bear in mind, this is now over half a decade ago. So obviously the landscape hopefully has changed since then. But at that time, the audience was almost as many women as men, maybe 60-40. That in itself surprised me a little bit, to be honest. I thought it was going to be a very male-centric show, and there were certainly a few incels in the crowd. You can't get away from that. But I did notice there were a lot of women in the audience, and they were having a ball. And I had the distinct thought to myself, I think I even said it out loud under my breath, this is how you do it. This is how you do it on TV. And what they'd tapped into at the core of it was the fact that anyone who plays video games is inherently competitive in a really funny way. and even though it's all nonsensical, you can't help but take that element of competition seriously when it comes to video games, and that makes it exponentially funnier. So that was the big revelation. So me and Steve and King Rob Sedgebeer, I think probably Sam was there,
All hell King Rob.
mainly drinking. All hell King Rob. He loves it. He loves being called King Rob. Yeah, we kind of got talking off the back of that. I then spent 5 years trying to get it to telly.
Bloody hell. Wow.
It was really, really difficult. It was really difficult getting a production company to agree to it. I tried a few. There was one I was working with who eventually kind of begrudgingly took an option on it, which was actually quite helpful. And we started doing a residency in the Wenlock and Essex. Is that what it was called? This pub in Islington.
I know that pub.
Yep.
It's a good pub.
Yeah, it was cool. It's got a little back room with like a floor grid that looks like a light up Rubik's Cube. It's wicked. And it all kind of... So we started doing these live gigs, and Rob at that time turned around and went, "Oh, I've got this technology that means we can use our phones to play video games." And he tried, I think Pong was the first thing that he tried out with us. And that was electric. So I'm there going, this is awesome. We can do amazing things as a TV show. But absolutely no one was interested in putting video games on telly. It's as simple as that. And I was going blue in the face, kind of going, look, it's the most consumed product on the internet after pornography. Like, this is what the kids are watching. If you want them to watch TV, this is what you... All of those arguments were falling on deaf ears. And I really did the rounds. Like I started with the BBC, and a guy I'd worked for back in the days, Bennett, was the controller of BBC Three at the time, and he loved it, and it was fantastic. And he kind of, I think he came down to watch one of the shows at the Wenlock and Essex, and he went, "Yeah, this is exactly what BBC Three should be doing." So I'm like, "Oh, fantastic!" And then he left to join Sky, leaving me with an email saying to he said, "Look, whoever's taking over from me, this is something that you should take on." And I felt like Sean Bean in Game of Thrones with a letter from Robert Baratheon going up to Cersei, just watching them rip up the letter in front of me like it. We didn't get anywhere. With that, I tried ITV, I tried Comedy Central, I tried, what's that? They launched that, was it London TV or something?
London Live?
London Live.
Oh, London Live.
I tried them and they turned me down, and I was like,
bloody hell, they take everything.
They're turning me down. And I remember,
I get the feeling, Ro, in the previous analogy of everyone else telling Steve to put the crack pipe down, I think you were very much the lighter in this analogy.
Oh, by this point, even Steve and Sam had started saying, "Can you just? It's too painful. Can you stop making us do the same show week in, week out? Telling us that TV people are going to turn up, and they don't. And even if they do, they're going to say no. Like, what is the point? Can you start?" And I was like, "No, it's going to happen. It's going to be on TV, or I will die." And in fairness, that became an incredibly unhealthy obsession.
Wow.
And yeah, I got way too emotionally invested in it. Because I was having to fight internally to keep it going at the production company, and also I was kind of on my own trying to get a TV company interested in it. And I remember there was a particular, they'd started doing these residencies, so this was years in now, but they started doing these amazing residencies at the Royal Institute, these brilliant shows in whatever it was, Edison's Lab or whatever, brilliant, and a place that I grew up watching, and I was very excited to be there and all that. And there was a sort of Q&A afterwards, and someone in the audience went, "Is it ever going to be on TV?" And I was like, at this point, I'd got Dave interested. I'd had a whole load of people from Dave come down and see the show, and they had played a couple of the games on their phones, and they were into it. They were like, "Okay, this could be a thing." And I was getting good feedback that we'd sort of made it about Steve and Sam, and we had all this huge. We had like a punishment guy with Will, and we had like a sort of stunt gamer, a guy called Guy, video game guy, and he'd do levels blindfolded, playing with his feet and stuff. We were going so far to just try.
I loved
Wow.
some of those. Some of that stuff where Guy was playing Sonic in the Hen and Chickens
Yeah,
with his feet,
yeah.
and oh my god, that was insane.
It was
fun.
brilliant. It was brilliant, and we were sort of doing VR had just started to appear, so we were doing we were getting people from the audience to stand there with a tray of champagne flutes and try and ride a roller coaster without dropping them and stuff like that. It was great. And this, and I was then in this position where Simon Lupton and Ian Coyle at Dave were interested in the show, and the execs there had been impressed upon them that this had potential, but there was a lot of dragging of feet at this point. The production company had kind of lost faith and were kind of telling me to just stop and give up. And so I was at this gig, and this question came up, and it was like, I might have a commission in a month's time, or it's never going to happen, and I genuinely don't know the answer. And I was so depressed. I just sort of went, yeah, I'm trying. It might be at the top of this year. I'll have a decision, and if I don't get a decision, I'm just going to quit and be a teacher. And then, of course, a load of teachers in the audience went, "Oh, what's wrong with being a teacher?" I was like, "No, nothing wrong with being a teacher. Teacher's great. It's like it's a solid B plan." Why is it a B plan? Oh my god! So I was just, I was in a really, it was a tough old place. I think emotionally more than professionally at that point. But how did it exactly happen? Essentially, they funded a live run through at the Tabernacle Theatre in Notting Hill. And so I had 2 days to set up this huge Go 8-bit show. We had a live giant snake that we put on Sam Pamphilon, and he had to play Snake with a snake on him as a punishment, stuff like that. So we really produced it up, and we put Steve and Sam front and center as the hosts of the thing, rather than as the team sort of guys.
Okay.
They were properly hosts. They were playing as the team, but I'd put them front and center of the whole thing. And at the end of all of that, Dave were a bit lukewarm on it. I was just like, Jesus. And I think that their reasoning was because Steve and Sam didn't have much of a track record in broadcasting at that time. They weren't convinced that we should they'd be able to invest in them on that level. Which was it is TV thinking, but it is understandable. And I was absolutely knackered, and I took myself away for a week off the back of that. And I played GTA 5 in a cottage in Shropshire with a hot tub. So I'd either sit in the hot tub or play GTA 5. And there was no Wi-Fi, so I'd managed to sort of just get one bar on my phone to be able to get my PS4 to acknowledge that GTA 5 existed. So that was a win. And genuinely,
I'm loving this kind of Medellin situation setting up here. You know?
And the first night I was there, utterly shattered, utterly broken, feeling like the whole thing had been a complete waste of time, like a total loss. I got in the hot tub, and this is the Lazarus pit effect of a hot tub. If you have access to a hot tub, use it. Like, your brain will try and stop you from getting in it. Just overcome that, get in it, and your life will be better. Because within about 3 minutes, I'd suddenly had this idea of, well, why don't I just put Steve and Sam to one side? I'll put them as the team captains. I didn't want to remove them from the show, which is what the channel was asking for, because I felt that the backlash from the gaming community would be not to our advantage when you're trying to do video games on TV. We don't want to be, you don't want the news story to be, a couple of talented guys have just been ripped off for a TV show. That's not what we wanted, or what I wanted. So I thought, well, what if I do that? If I make them the team captains and I get a super big host for the show. And I knew that they had been after Dara O'Brien because they'd had a maths show with him that had ended, and they wanted him back on the channel. And I go away back with Dara. because I used to put him on my live gigs back in the day, and we were pretty friendly. So I reached out to Dara through the agent, and I ended up having to have. I'd never been to a music festival before, and I went to Glastonbury for the first time that year. And my first afternoon, as I arrived in Glastonbury, was sat in this van having this really important meeting with the head of Dara's agency, and convincing him just to let me have that meeting with Dara, let me have that conversation with him. And it was, and I got there. I convinced him, and bless him, he let me have that meeting with Dara. Again, I was just getting all the TV types were just going, you're never going to get him, you're never going to get him, don't worry about it, just stop it. But I went and met him with Paul Byrne, Ed Byrne's little brother, who I've worked with a lot over the years. And obviously Dara knows very well. So I sort of tactfully, but also usefully brought Paul along with me, and we sat down and had a lunch in Soho together that went on a lot longer. Like Dara had like 45 minutes, but we were actually sat there for a couple of hours. And at the end of that, Dara would just look me directly in the eye and went, right, if we're going to do this, it has to be the best video game show ever. I was like, all right, let's do that. And he went, okay, I'll give it some thought. And this was sort of, so we're going into summer now, and Dara started turning up on all these a lot of other little live video game shows had started to crop up, and Dara kept turning up on them, and I was like, bollocks, he's gonna get nipped by somebody else. I don't believe it. So I was really sweating, but all he was doing was testing out whether he would enjoy it. And he came and watched a Go 8-Bit live with me in Edinburgh that year. And then on the other side of Edinburgh, I was sat in my office with one of the execs who had told me categorically that it was never going to happen and Dara was never going to say yes. And I just got a text from Danny off the curb going, "Oh, it's a yes from Dara, by the way." And I was like, "What?" And I looked up at Darren and went, "Dara's in." And Darren genuinely went, "What? Really?" I was like, "Yeah." And suddenly, obviously, everything started to get taken a lot more seriously. So we were given some money by Dave to hire a entertainment studio producer and work out a presentation for how the show would actually run. So I taught myself PowerPoint, and my kid put a little video in it and all kinds of stuff. We built this fancy PowerPoint. We went in and presented it all with Dara. He came with us to the execs, and that was when we got traction. We there was a question very early on from one of the higher ups who said, "Are there enough video games to test a series?" And Dara went, "There's 30 years of video game content. I'm never going to run out of video games." And that was right at the beginning of the meeting. And I think from that moment onwards, they were sold. Because Dara had simply said that sentence at the top. He pretty much didn't say anything else for the rest of the meeting. It was amazing. He sort of said, "Yeah, we should do this at the end." And apparently they were like bouncing about the office after we left. And we got the commission. Sorry, I told you that would be a long story.
Amazing story, though. Amazing.
That's good. Wow.
Yeah, and the internal wranglings were hell, but there we are. We got there.
I managed to miss out the entire part about the EGX show as well.
That was huge. That was a huge thing, to be fair. That did us a big favour. Because Dave kind of were interested in supporting Go 8-Bit there and stuff. But it gave them real legitimacy. Gareth, you put them on a stage at the entrance, essentially hosting the whole of that EGX. And it was huge. It's sort of where I got to know Ellie really well. Ellie Gibson came. I'd met her a few times at the show, but that was it was during that day. She did a couple of things during that day where I just went, "Oh no, this girl's like proper funny."
Right.
She showed,
and it's funny because to involve
and stuff like that was very funny.
Involving her as well was a really good way. With the show, we sort of negotiate that because she's a really good gaming journalist from years ago. I've known her for a number of years, and she'd started doing Scummy Mummies. I think by that point she was dipping her toe in possibly.
Yeah, she was very passionate about that. Yeah.
we sort of managed to get the gaming credibility side, because Steve and Sam would just, jump around on stage and do their thing, whereas Ellie would do the credible sort of interview sides of it. And so was born that. It was really cool to sort of see that happening live as well. That was great.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I know, and not to assume you're on in this, James, but we're talking about some of the problems there. The next questions are going to be about the problems that we came up against, Ro, which I'm sure, apart from in the getting the thing signed, there are various confidential and non-confidential stories,
right,
that are out and
Well, I
about
mean,
there.
I still want to work in telly, so I've got to be a little bit careful
Okay.
about how I talk about the difficulties. But there were things like at the point of securing the commission. Put it this way: I got a call. I got a call from one of the Dave execs at one point, going, "Sorry, do you want the commission?" I was like, "Yeah." Well, you guys have just turned it down. I'm like, "What?" And an aggressive negotiation tactic was to walk out of the budget meeting, and stuff like that was going on that I didn't know about. So I was having to sort of firefight all around the entire thing. I was having to manage the agents and talk to them and reassure them that we'd be okay, we'd do okay by them. I'd have to sort of deal internally with the production company who they'd only ever made traditional sitcoms, right? So this was very new for them. So they, and so that was tricky, more than a little tricky. And there was a lot of clashes and a lot of fights and a lot of arguments there. And through all of that, I was trying to protect the channel from seeing any of this stuff, because I wanted them to think we were totally cool and credible and we could totally make this. You know what I mean? So it was all very, it was extremely fraught. And because I was so emotionally invested in it, when I got it over the line, I had this huge sense of, I fucking told you. I fucking told all of you that this would sell, you bastards. But of course, what actually happened was the second it was sold, it was kind of all the bigwigs swept in and started hiring people and kind of started cutting me out really quite a lot. Like I sort of didn't. I started to feel like I wasn't having a much say, and because it was so emotional, I think I was acting out quite bad. I was dealing with it very badly. I was getting very upset because I'd been vindicated, but I'd been allowed to enjoy that for all of 3 seconds before I started finding out that, no, you're not going to be doing this, you're not going to be doing that, we're not doing this, we're not doing that, we're not doing that. And, all TV is compromised, and I'm very aware of that. But I fundamentally felt that the history of video games on TV had been quite fraught. And at the heart of Games Master was which was the successful one for me, was a real understanding of the gamer mentality. So I think video game content on TV had obviously been fraught. They were very reluctant to do it. And the thing about television entertainment is you very quickly find the rinse and repeat formula, so you can make it many episodes quickly and easily. And I was the element on the team that was quite resistant to that, because I wanted to make sure that we were doing something that felt authentic to gamers. And obviously, the big win out of that was just keeping Steve and Sam in the mix at all. We lost everybody else. Like, I had to get rid of Will, I had to get rid of Guy, I had to get rid of everyone. It was really difficult. And that sort of homogenizing element that, TV is very good at what it does. But sometimes it can fall into the trap as a result of thinking it knows better than the audience, what the audience wants. And it's not a conscious thing, it's not a malicious thing, it is just part of the process that kind of has that effect. And so I was resisting that. I was trying to make sure that there were touches and grace notes and elements that gamers would really get a kick out of without putting off a mainstream audience, which of course was the primary concern in terms of return on investment, whether the advertisers are going to be happy with this product and all the rest of it. They didn't want it to be niche. They wanted it to be something that everyone could enjoy. Well, everyone can enjoy it because everyone's competing to play video games. And I felt that was the answer to that. Putting in a specific joke about a particular character out of Street Fighter isn't going to hurt anybody, because if you don't know who that character is, you get that it's a specific joke and you'll laugh. And if you're a gamer, you'll go, okay, these guys know what they're talking about. And there were a few elements like that, and there was a particular clash over. We were very, very lucky. I'm sorry, Gareth. I'm totally.
Have you got a question? Sorry, you got a question, Swanee?
Go on. Who was the fellow who had done that beautiful rap for us?
Oh no, Dan Bull's rap. Yeah.
Dan Bull. So we'd gotten this lovely. I'd worked with a chap called Mert Rich and his team.
Yes,
to get a brilliant title sequence put together and a great theme tune and everything. And Dan Bull offered to do one of his gamer raps to that theme music for free because he wanted to be part of the project, which I was absolutely over the moon with. And he sent us the demo, and it was awesome. It was so cool. And then I ran it up the flagpole, and no one really understood what he was rapping about and didn't want it.
I think, do you know what, that for me as well, right, just to try and shift some of the energy, because I know you had a horribly negative time on some aspect. I mean, the whole thing was positive, but there was a lot of shit you had to go through and all of that. And I think you're right in the understanding of what makes TV versus what is appealing to gamers. You know, there's a huge landscape there of things that you can sort of tailor and tweak. And some of the classic cases, I think, you know, where I can hopefully put some more detail onto the disappointing side of stuff, or where people were requesting, for example, we signed the rights to Burger Time so that we could make huge oversized burgers that would fall on TV at the right time.
Yeah, it was so difficult.
Trying to explain to 6-7 different people in different ways how we would never get those rights because the guy who made Burger Time is dead. So there's the understanding of, okay, logistically we can do this, but legally, obviously television in its production needs to be watertight with all of that stuff, and that's where certainly
the
we
rights
had a lot
were
of
a nightmare.
Issues.
We had
getting certain things signed off.
Part of the issue with the production company was they're also a distribution arm, American based, so they required boot and laces contracts essentially with every game that we featured, whereas obviously we would be able to use it as fair use because we're only broadcasting in the UK, and we're discussing the video games, so it falls under fair use because we're essentially reviewing the quality of these games. But we weren't able to do that, which is where Gareth and I, particularly on Series 1, went through hell, having to try and get signed documentation for every game that we used, which was very, very unnecessary, I think, and difficult to do. No, it wasn't fun. In fact,
it was for me. I was a consultant being paid on an hourly rate. It was loads of fun for me. It was brilliant.
You say that, Gareth, but bloody hell, mate, we had a few.
Lots of
we
late
would have
night
conversations at midnight going, what are we doing? How are we going to get it?
And then we get it turned around. I think my favourite one was Rachel Riley wanting Temple Run. And I was finding that out sort of 24 hours before the show that she didn't want any of the pre-selected games. She was better at Temple Run, therefore. And even I, who's very well connected in the industry, kind of just barked at that and said, there's absolutely no way that we're getting in touch with these developers and approve. But we did. We managed to wheedle it out. And
you were incredible. You were incredible, mate. You really did deliver. Like, it was unbelievable. Like, we had this spreadsheet where everything was red, like nothing had been permitted. Do you know what I mean? And I had people going ballistic at me on the production side, while Gareth was desperately trying to get these agreements done. That, let's be honest, no one cares if you play a video game in broadcasting. No one cares. It's fine. But that was unacceptable information. So Yeah, that was.
We had
I
a lot of
think that
fun
was
with
one of the
those.
tough. We certainly became brothers out of that. There's no doubt about that. Like, obviously, Real War is worse than making a video game show on TV, but it does feel like we really went through something together, and
We
like we
definitely
might
did.
not see each other for 20 years, but if we run into each other, we'd just be like, yeah, okay, how's it going? Do you know what I mean? It'd be like no time has passed. We've been through the trenches together. There's no doubt about
But that's also for me as well. It threw up some of the the best times. Those are the funnest conversations in production, aren't they? And it's sort of 3 a.m. when you just
Yeah.
you can't do anything else. But some of the ones that it throws up some of the best moments too. Where what game was it? Don't talk or it'll explode. What's the bomb?
Keep talking and no one explodes.
There we
no one
are. I
explodes.
should know that exactly. They were really good, and we turned that
They
on
were
so quickly.
great.
And that challenge was phenomenal at the end.
Yeah.
I think that was perhaps one of my favourites, where they're stuck in a booth with a balloon about to explode.
Yeah.
I think that was brilliant the way that those were thought out. What's what was your favourite challenge?
I think Little Big Planet springs to mind because they built us a bespoke level, which was unbelievable.
nice.
That was so nice of them to do, and they were so excited, and they came down and watched the recording and everything. So that was really special. Also, you mentioned Rachel Riley, and she decimated Russell Howard at Street Fighter.
She did. That was amazing.
She'd never played Street Fighter before, so
That
she
was brilliant.
did. I think she played it in rehearsal once and kind of went, "Oh right," and then on the night she was obviously just seeing the Matrix, like she could just see code. And I had a little chat with her afterwards, and she was like, "Well, it's just obvious, isn't it? Like you just press that combination of buttons, and you'll." And so,
Wow.
like the first round, he got a few licks in, but she did him in within like seconds, and then the second round was even quicker and flawless. And it was one of
Amazing.
the best bits of
Bloody hell.
TV I've ever been part of. Just watching Russell Howard being completely destroyed by this beautiful blonde woman sat across from him. So that was a good one. I do have an affinity for that keep talking and nobody explodes. When we were having these big meetings about how to escalate these end games at the end of the show, and we were talking about putting them in these booths and stuff, and I kind of went, well, this thing, and one of the people went, well, health and safety, these things are going to explode. We're going to need to protect their ears. And I went, well, if we put ear defenders on them that have comms, then we'll be able to communicate. And the production designer went, oh, yeah, that's how we do it. That's great. And I'd been so used to saying, making, I think, good suggestions and being ignored for so long at that point. That reaction, it felt like the first time someone had said, yeah, Ro, that's a good idea to me in weeks. And I actually burst into tears in front of everybody when I got the yes. Like, that's how fraught it was. That's how stressed out I was. It was, yeah. It's really difficult. Like, I'm really proud of the show. I'm really proud it happened. I'm so proud of how it happened the way that it did and the people I met on it and worked on it with. But it was so fraught that it's actually quite a traumatic. It's quite traumatic thinking about all of that and going back to it and revisiting what it felt like. Like I was kind of relegated to sitting under the stairs for the recordings and having to tell them who had won because they couldn't work out in the gallery who had won a video game. So that was my job to tell them, yeah, now this person's in the lead and now this person has won. You had non-gamers, avid non-gamers, people who didn't like video games working on the production, which was quite difficult to manage in some ways.
But hopefully worth it because you guys produced a fantastic show.
Thanks.
And it was so well received by not just, gamers, but also the mainstream audience, which was a tough mix to get those two crowds.
Yeah.
And it worked really well.
Well, that's where I feel like I think that the tension between that entertainment process that I was talking about and my desire to ensure it remained authentic, that tension, that argument, that fight, that battle, I think is what made the show really good. And I think Series 1 was brilliant, actually, really brilliant. Those 6 episodes were the strongest 6 episodes we made. And I say that because I then went off to make a spin-off show while the rest of the team carried on making the main show. So I wasn't involved with Series 2 and Series 3. I was off making Go 8-Bit DLC at that point. which I had a ball with. It was incredibly low budget, hardly any time to make it, and they commissioned it without a format, so I had to actually format the show and film it and edit it. I mean, we from the first day of formatting the show on Go 8-Bit DLC, we were filming it, I think, within 5 weeks. And we filmed all 10 episodes in 5 days. And then and we did it in the kitchen at the top of the building in my office. We converted that into a studio because we didn't have enough money to go into a studio. And we just had a ball. We had an absolute blast. And I got a lot more of the team that I had been working with over the years, sort of my team, involved with that. And I was essentially the series producer on that. So I didn't really get too much resistance on what I wanted to do on that show. I was left to get on with it, and it was a lot more fun. I had a lot of good fun with that.
I thought that was brilliant. Yeah, I thought that was wicked. I thought the sort of conversational elements of that and everything else. You can see how Dave is doing Taskmaster and everything else.
Yeah.
You know, it's the exact same sort of format. Is that still on somewhere to watch? Because I love those.
I think they're still on the Dave Play on the UK TV player. I think they all are. One cool thing was Ellie Gibson was the host of that show. That made her the first ever female host of a Dave show. So that was kind of cool. That was
wow,
nice.
Yeah, that was really lovely. And I think I don't know if she didn't manage to get it to broadcast, but I think they offered her a development deal on Scummy Mummies as well off the back of that, and I think she got some investment from Dave on that as well, which I think was a really good thing. So yeah, I had sort of felt quite disenfranchised by the end of season 1, and DLC was very much my redemption, and made me fall. I was very seriously considering quitting television altogether.
To be a teacher.
Yeah.
Teach about TV.
But
Just trying to,
are we ever a teacher, or are we just always a student? Come on, guys.
just trying to pull out some positive. Were there any? Did you have any favourite guests?
I loved so particularly on season 1. So I've got a long history of working in live comedy. Russell Howard was the big one. Sam had done a bit of filming. Sam Pamphilon had done a bit of filming with Russell, and Russell agreed to do the show, and he agreed to do it for a very reasonable fee. And that then became the standard fee. So he kind of made the show affordable by doing that, which was very cool. I'm just trying to think, who did we have in season 1?
For me, do you know what? For me, Susan Coleman was a big one because
she was amazing.
She was absolutely phenomenal and just hilarious, which she is anyway. But also just came in the whole spirit of the thing. You know, it didn't matter whether you were good at games, knew about games or didn't. And she did.
She got it. She understood it
a lot, and it was just that sort of. That's what the show was. It's just fun.
And she was up against that goalkeeper,
games, you know,
who was really tall, like David, whatever his name was. And but yeah, Susan. What was interesting was when again it was a bit of with all of these things, booking the actors is always a bit of a wrangle. But we pushed hard to get Susan on it, and we're really pleased that we did. And what was really interesting was both on the main show and on DLC, her episodes became the first. Her episode became the first one to go out. It wasn't the first one recorded, but in the edit, everyone went, "That's the best episode. Let's put that out first." And that's a great credit to her. And then on DLC, I think her episode was the second one to go out because we had Jamali on DLC, and Ian loved him, so that went out first. But yeah,
that's great. And the Ed Byrne one as well was good. I quite enjoyed that because they're good mates anyway, aren't they, Ed and Dora? So that was good fun.
Yeah, is that the one where they ended up on those sort of bouncy chair things? And
they had Buck Hunter, Buck Shooter, Buck Hunt.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you got to be careful.
Because that was Ed already had one at home, didn't he?
He brought in his Buck Hunt.
He brought his Buck Hunt machine in.
Arcade machine all the way.
Yeah.
We had to. Bloody hell, that wasn't easy. Yeah, yeah, that was cool. What was it? Was Jason Manford
Jason Manford was there.
and someone else. Was it
And
Jason
Ed
and
Burnham.
Ed? Yeah, so they ended up on
Jason and Ed,
those springy.
episode 6, yeah.
Oh wow! Okay, well done.
I've got it up. I'm cheating. I've got it up on
really
James.
You go like you went full Rain Man there for a second. So yes, at the end of that episode, the two of them, for whatever reason, end up sat on this. You know, like those springy things you get in kids' playgrounds, like you sit on a little springy horse. It looked like a horse on a spring, and you just roll around on that. So they ended up on those contraptions and were just sort of flapping about, and it was just hysterically funny. Yeah, it was just out and out funny. It doesn't matter who you are, you will find that hilarious. So I think that was always a big thing. Yeah.
One of the speaking about the technical aspects of it, I'm aware of time as well, but one of my favourite moments dealing with other people that provided tech for the show, it's at various different companies providing PCs, arcade games, and that sort of stuff, was people finding things out that in a studio static is a problem, and therefore when you're walking on a vinyl floor and you touch the inside of a PC, it will break. So there was a lot of changing settings, re-uploading code, getting new PCs in and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But I think just
lag,
sort of
because
there was definitely a lot of lag.
System
Definitely
with the
a lot of lag.
Revolve and huge amounts of wiring, and none
but
of
we're giving
Rob's
away our
tech
tricks
would
now.
work because things would be made of metal.
Giving away our tricks, bro. Shush, we can charge for this. Shush.
Swanee,
well, none of it worked. We'd have to do it a different way. Like, don't do it the way we did it. That's my advice. It didn't
That's what
work.
you charge for. That's what you charge for.
Oh, right, okay.
What was the episode we saw, Swanee, that I came for the live?
I couldn't remember. I went to all of them.
Because I remember there was some kind of arcade machine that had been set up, and then it broke, and then they had to kind of fix it.
Yeah, there was a lot of that going on.
It was causing a lot of problems.
Well, on
certainly
the
wasn't
show,
one of the Sega ones. Oh, there was the VR thing, wasn't there? Yeah. And Rabbids. Oh, the Rabbids thing we were gonna have at one point. The VR Rabbids fairground ride.
Yeah, Dara went
came
on
from
that.
France. Okay. That brought over, especially from France. But I mean, there's a ton of good games in it. There's a lot of good stuff on there.
Gosh, I mean, VR is tricky at the best of times. Having on a TV show, I can't even imagine.
Not fun.
Well, and it was nascent at that time as well. Like, it was right in that VR explosion period that was happening. There were loads of VR studios. Everyone were all going to visit them and see what we could do. And again, you did an amazing job, Gareth, and got PlayStation.
Oh no, thank you. It wasn't just for me. That's how we do this. How we get, and thanks to Steve. To Steve and you for bringing me into it. No, it's brilliant. But aware of time, of those games, doesn't have to be those. No, not yet. Doesn't have to be. I was just thinking.
We can just carry on. It's fine. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah,
right, we can carry on. I was going to say, what are you playing now, considering...
What am I playing right now is... I have my PS5. It is a black PS5, because I'm that sexy. And I am just completing the Siege of Paris on Valhalla. Just to tide it up, and I've interrupted Miles Morales just to finish that up. So I'll go back to Miles Morales, and then I will do. I've got to finish Red Dead 2. I'm only halfway through. I've got to finish that.
It's a big
really
game.
Important. And then I think I kind of fancy having a go at Manhunt. Which is like a shark. Apparently, you're a shark and you just go around eating and biting things. And I feel like that's what I need right now, is just to go around as a shark shredding stuff in an open world. I love an open world game. That's kind of where I exist.
Cool. Yeah. What about Cyberpunk?
I've avoided it entirely. My mate told me he played it and it was just too glitchy. So I will wait until that's a thing. What's coming up on the horizon that I'm tempted by? Vaguely tempted. I'm very excited about the Suicide Squad game next year. That's the one that I'm from the guys that made the Arkham Asylum games.
Okay. So it should be good.
Kill the Justice League.
Kill the Justice League, or Kill the Suicide Squad, whatever that's called. That looks
Suicide Squad. Kill Justice League.
Suicide Squad. Yeah. Kill the Justice League. Yes, please. That is what I'm having. Yeah, the movie was brilliant. The one that came out this year. If you haven't seen that, go see it. It's brilliant, and the game looks fantastic as well. Yeah. And quite a lot of fishdom on my iPad. I'm sadly addicted to that at the moment.
Ro, what are you doing now then? What are you working on?
I am hosting a podcast of my very own, chaps, which I'm very excited about. I do it with
Oh, there
the
you go.
comedians Seuss Kempner and John Robbins, who are fantastic, and a chap called Simon Lupton. And it is all about the band Queen, the mighty Queen. It's called Queen Pod, at Queen Pod, y'all. On the socials, it is really, really fun. We are going through their entire back catalogue, and we're sort of endorsed by Queen, so we're allowed to play all their music. And I ended up making a music video with Brian May this summer, which was amazing. And I'm a huge Queen fan. Yeah. So
I don't know. about this.
yeah. So there's a time traveler video that he's put out for a song called Back to the Light, and I produced that, and it is amazing.
Wow.
There are two Brian Mays.
True or false, Brian May?
Yeah, there are two Brian Mays, and I learned all about VFX and stuff. So yes, Queen Pod is my big thing, and I warmly encourage you guys to check it out, even if you only like Queen because you've got their greatest hits in the car. We're like super accessible for that, and yeah, it's loads of fun. It's full of
Awesome.
jokes.
We'll put the links in the show notes.
Please do, thank you.
Can anybody find you online?
Yeah, it's that kind of humour that we tend to avoid on the pod itself.
He wants a round of applause. Yes, well done, done. Great job.
Why did you put your hands up? Have you... Okay.
He wants praise.
Well done, Gareth. That's
Another one bites the dust.
Oh,
That was a classic.
I feel like so. Yeah, I went through a whole. We've ended up being called Queen Pod, but I remember pitching like poddy language, radio pod, like all of these. Like, what was it? Bohemian Raps Poddy. I wanted to call it like all kinds of stuff that I was sort of doing, but they were like, no,
I quite like that.
So, yeah, Queen Pod is what
That's
we
good.
are. With a Flash, a logo from Flash. We've based our logo on the Flash movie, so it's very easy. With bright yellow, very easy to spot. We've been at #1 for music commentary on iTunes for most of the year, you know, guys. So, yeah,
Oh, really?
Yeah. Hashtag
Check
It's
it
good
out.
stuff.
Very good.
It's good stuff for sure.
That's awesome, mate.
Thanks,
Well
man.
done.
Amazing.
It's a joy, and for me, I'm usually a behind the scenes kind of guy. So it's like the first thing I've ever done where I'm sort of front of camera, if you want, but it's obviously it's an audio format. But yeah, it's been a real fun journey for me, and it's really got me through lockdown. And we've got lovely listeners all over the world who are wonderful podheads. Yeah, and they've got a lovely Facebook fan group and stuff that are turning into a little. They're like my little cult. I love them. It's great. Yeah, that's cool.
Cool.
Nice.
Thank you very much, Rowan.
What?
That was brilliant.
Interesting, man.
Really interesting. Hope you enjoyed the interview. That's it. That's it for the show. I mean, it's been quite a long one, quite an extended one for us today. But
Hopefully you enjoyed it.
hopefully you enjoyed it. So it just leaves us to say thank you very much for listening, as always. And
Yes.
and
Ask what you've been playing this month.
exactly what have you been playing this month? So, Harry, what have you been playing this month?
This month. So I'm still on the old mobile games.
Okay.
And this month, Thomas Was Alone. Do you know that
No,
game?
Thomas Was Alone.
Thomas Was Alone was another Kickstarter project. Like really simple visuals, but fascinating sort of story. Really good score to it, and great narration by Danny Wallace.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, just a Kickstarter project that's very basic, but it just comes together so well, and you can get it on I think every platform possible, even mobile, which is what I play it on.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, really good fun. How about yourself?
I've been. What have I been playing? I've made Red Dead Redemption 2 still. It's just huge. I've just been playing a bit of
Still.
that. Yeah, about halfway through.
It's a long game.
Yeah, it's a large game.
Amazing.
But yeah, really looking forward to it. Plus, but the thing is, I don't have a PC because I've got a MacBook, and I really want to play.
Oh, one of those.
Yeah, I know. But I really want to play Curse of Monkey Island and the whole series. And frustratingly, not available. One of the games is available, but
yeah, I've got it.
You've got it
on Steam. Oh yeah.
But what the rest?
So good.
I can't get the rest on. They've taken them away. I don't know if they were, but they've taken them away from the MacBook store or the Apple store. Sorry. So you can't get them on Apple, but obviously you can get them on PC. So I was going to get them through Steam and borrow my girlfriend's laptop and play.
Yeah. Or partition yours.
Oh, yeah, well, exactly, yeah.
Now we're getting technical. We're going
Partition it and
to
whack Windows on, yeah.
There you go.
But that series, I missed that because I played through all the Broken Sword, which is brilliant, but I didn't really play Curse of Monkey Island, so that's definitely need to rectify that. But that's it, really, Harry. So
yeah, just all that's left to say is obviously find us on all the socials like Twitter and Facebook or Instagram as @Gamerdisco. Send us your thoughts, send us your feelings about the podcast, if you're enjoying it, if you want us to shut up, or topic suggestions, things like that. And I think that's all that there is to say this month.
Cool. Well, cool. Thanks for listening, guys, and we will catch you next time. Cheers, guys. Bye.
Thanks for listening, guys. Bye.